Okay, welcome everyone. I am Michelle Cooper, owner of Alchemy Accounting and Bookkeeping Services. And as always, I love bringing you the most amazing people in the world that I have in my world. And one of them is Erin from Zephyr Recruiting. So welcome, Erin.
Thank you very much. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. So Erin recently came into my life, and I thought it was crazy. We have mutual friends, and
Mhm.
and I spent a lot of time going back and forth with Erin's admin person, and I didn't realize that Erin was behind the scenes. I thought I was talking to Itza, and I thought she was kind of the business owner. So great fit there because she really
Nice.
owned her role and
Good deal.
represented your business really well. And then all of a sudden she was like, so you should probably talk to Erin now. She owns the business. And I'm like, oh, okay, there's somebody else. Let's do
Great.
that.
I'm gonna have to give her a raise, aren't I?
Right. Uh, and so Erin has owns Zephyr Recruiting, and
Mhm.
one of the common things that I hear from clients all the time is the struggles around hiring. And so I thought it'd be really good to bring you on. I love your energy and your approach to hiring and business in general. And so welcome
Thank
to
you.
my show, my little stage,
Love
my
it.
virtual couch. So I have an audience, a pretty wide audience of
Cool.
entrepreneurs, and as I said, hiring is a common problem. So can you tell us a little bit about you and
Mhm.
about Zephyr Recruiting?
Absolutely. So, a little bit about me. I, again, am Erin. It's nice to see you all. And I am sort of a serial entrepreneur, to be honest. I've been a business coach. I've had a pretty interesting career journey of my own, which was not. It doesn't go unnoticed to me where I am now because of where I've come from. But where I landed now is I was a business coach, like I said, for small business owners. And I often found hiring just repeatedly became probably the biggest pain point I was seeing, and they didn't necessarily come to me for hiring at that point because I was a coach. But that is just something I saw over and over again. And it prevented my clients from being able to scale, being able to grow, being able to serve their clients the way they wanted, to get the revenue they wanted. And I actually have a history in recruiting. So I started pivoting. And in 2018, I pivoted my business coaching to Zephyr Recruiting. And Zephyr is founded on, well, the notion that small business owners have a really challenging time because they don't have as many support services or resources as obviously larger corporations do. And I wanted to provide an option for the small business employer that they could afford and that could work for them. So the Zephyr approach is very different than typical recruiters because that approach just doesn't work very well for small business employers. And in my humble opinion, it doesn't work for most large companies either. But that aside, their approach has less to do about understanding who the candidate is and understanding who the employer is and making what we call a right fit match. And it's just more about getting their commission and fitting a warm body in a seat. And small business employers can't afford those kinds of hiring mistakes. And, it affects everything in their business, their whole team. So our approach is about right fit and about making the right match. And we do it for a really affordable, flat fee. So it's not based on salary. It is just a flat fee no matter what the role is.
I love that because as a small business owner, and which I am, and supporting other small business owners, um, I love the idea of a flat fee because then you
Mhm.
know exactly what you're paying. You can budget for it or plan for it or cash flow forecast for it,
Yeah.
and prepare for
Yes.
that.
Yes,
So
exactly. It can become our goal is to be like you, actually, Michelle, right? Is you're partnering with your clients, you're becoming their tried and true bookkeeper and accounting expert who they go to and turn to for that. And we want the same, that's the kind of relationships that we build. And we want that same kind of relationship with our small business clients because it doesn't make sense for them to bring on a recruiter on their team full time. So that's sort of the niche and the space that we're filling for them. And so we make it that flat fee and affordable so that, it becomes very cost effective. And like you said, they can forecast, they can budget, they can work with you to figure out how that's going to fit into their budget for the year. And it's
Yeah, because what I see happen is that business owners, they're very focused on revenue, right?
Mhm.
So they'll be like, well, I'm going to add $20,000 a month of revenue, or I'm going to do a launch, and I'm going to, have this program. And so then what I see happen, where the business kind of can collapse upon itself, is that more revenue actually stresses the business.
right.
So they have to hire people for fulfillment. Right.
Right.
And that's what happened to me. I grew my business really rapidly, and all of a sudden there was too much work for me to do on my own, and I had to scramble to hire people. And I've never hired anyone before.
Right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
in my career, I always worked directly with the managing director or the vice president, or, somebody at the C-suite level. And I worked directly with them. And so I never even had experience managing staff or like
Mm-hmm.
team
Right.
members. No idea how to hire. You name the hiring mistakes, I made it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, somebody needs to do this for me. Like, I am not responsible enough to hire people. I would just be like,
Mhm.
yeah, you sound good. Come on in.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then I hired friends, and like, you name it, I made the mistake.
Yeah,
Right.
I think that's a pretty typical story actually for small business owners, because they don't have HR departments to just say, go
Right.
hire for me, right? And we are connected. The idea that you hire friends, or the first person that you connect with, or that you like, or whatever, those are where hiring mistakes often happen. And the one thing that we really don't learn as small business owners in any kind of like training programs, even business coaching and stuff, is how to be a good recruiter, how to
Yeah.
hire well, how to be skilled at it. And, so we're just winging it all the
Yeah.
time. And yeah, we make major
I don't
hiring.
even know what questions to ask.
Right.
I
Right.
was like, to be honest, we've hired a new office admin gal, and she's awesome. But I actually had one of my team members do the interviewing, because
Mm-hmm.
she has, in her previous job, that was part of her role. And
Oh,
I was like, you know what, you do it.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know, I don't make good decisions in that way, and I don't even know what questions to ask. So
No, I
I'm
think it's great
excited
that
to
you
talk to you.
identify that. And you're lucky you have someone on your team who has the experience. I think a lot of times small business owners, maybe they get to the point where they're like, I just don't have time, so I'm just going to volley it over to whoever. And again, that person may or may not have any kind of recruiting or hiring experience. And so the
Totally.
hiring mistakes can continue, even if you recognize that you're not the one who should do it, if you don't have someone on your team who's skilled and understands,
Yeah.
how to interview and strategy around hiring and all of that.
And how hiring mistakes cost you a lot of money,
A
hey?
lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How much do you think they cost?
Well, so a lot of research shows that a bad hire costs approximately 30% of the annual salary of that employee. So every time. And actually, it goes up. A lot of research shows it goes up to about 50% when you're dealing with any kind of manager or leadership roles.
Okay.
So it can be extremely expensive.
Right.
And the thing that doesn't get captured in those is the effects on your team. If you have a bad hire, you can sometimes lose other people who are great and were doing really well, but because you've got someone who came in who maybe isn't the right fit, and it kind of turns the dynamic of the team into a place where people don't really want to work, then you can lose your best team members because of
Right.
that. And so the statistics that I just cited don't even account for some of those residual and the ripple effects of having a bad hire.
Right.
Yeah.
And who needs to waste money, especially right now,
Especially
right? Like,
now, and small business in general, we don't
yeah.
have money to waste.
Yeah, I know,
We don't
right?
have a
Like,
whole bunch of, yep.
yeah, like there's some businesses right now who are struggling to keep their doors open.
Yes.
And there's businesses out there who are like, their sales are thriving, but their ability to fulfill on those sales are capped, because they don't
Mhm.
have even the right people, right?
Right.
And
Right.
where do you even find these people these days? So I appreciate this conversation, and I'm sure a lot of other people do. So tell us about you've talked about the right fit
Yeah.
a couple of times. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's what we're all about. So, and I'm super passionate about this. So, what I was seeing, when I was doing both my recruiting in the past and with my clients, when I was a business coach, is this drive to hire the A player, right, or the top talent or the best. How do we bring in the A player? And what I've really learned is that that doesn't work oftentimes, especially in small business. Basically what it boils down to is what an A player is, Michelle, to like your company, your accounting company, and your bookkeeping company has a completely different profile or completely different kind of person than the A player for, a different kind of accounting firm, a different kind of bookkeeping company, right? So we decided, really when we honed in on what it is that we do really well, it's that we find the right fit. And that is what we talk about all the time, is we want you to focus on what is the right fit. And so for us at Zephyr, we look at a whole myriad of things, including your obvious skills, your experience, the education, the aptitudes that you need to function in the job. But there's also things like core values fit. There's culture fit, personality fit, even mindset. Like, what's the mindset of that candidate or that new employee? And does that resonate well with the mindset that you have in your business? So you have to look at the person from a much more, much broader sense than just skills and aptitudes. And that's often where small business owners kind of drop the ball, really.
Yeah, because like I can imagine, like you can teach people some skills or they can learn them, they can do a course or
Mhm.
whatever, but
Mhm.
um, if they don't fit, like they don't kind of jive with the energy of your team or in your office, then that can cause a real problem, right?
Right, exactly. And it takes, I think what's challenging is knowing who is the right fit for
Yeah,
your team and for your company and for your goals and your culture, and it takes a conscientious sort of intentional process to figure out who that is. And then you have to figure out how to draw them to you, right, in the recruiting process, because you can bring in hundreds of applicants, especially right now in this kind of job market, and maybe 1% or half of a percent is really the right fit. So how do you get rid of all that noise of the people who aren't, and how do you draw in the ones who are? So there's a number of layers there that you kind of have to work through in order to find that right fit.
right.
Yep.
Wow. So it's a real process, hey?
Yeah, it is a real process, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So interesting, right? Like I think about, all of my hiring mistakes and our latest hiring experiences um and just how much time it takes, right? Time and
Mhm.
energy. Um, like in my business, I'm really clear now that I need people who can like they can jump in
Right.
and figure
Mhm.
shit out.
Yep.
Like, I
Yep.
don't have time to like show you how to open Outlook or something like, like I don't have time to often I don't have time to explain everything completely. Like I need you to use your, I don't know, your skill set or something to just figure it out,
hmm And
right?
what's interesting is we have clients who are in the same space as you, and they're absolutely the opposite. Like their version of an A player or their right fit is the person who will follow, like they have a workbook that explains every step. And they
Yeah.
need the kind of person who just is willing to open up that workbook and just follow every step. And they're not actually interested in someone who will come up with out of the box solutions or just figure things out. They want it to be done a really specific way. And neither one is good or bad or wrong or right.
Totally.
That's the difference, that uniqueness that we're talking about here, that why it's so important for you, as you just illustrated, really understanding who that right fit needs to be, and to not get caught up in this hype of top talent, A players, all this stuff.
Yeah.
So and time is one thing. I mean, you've been in business for a long time. You've made these hiring mistakes. I mean, that's certainly one way to figure out who your right fit is through trial and error. And then,
Oh,
then there's another way, which, we utilize at Zephyr. And we also actually have, as you see scrolling on your screen, our right fit workbook. And that is also a little bit of a step-by-step to get you started. And that if you utilize that tool, it will help you hone in on who that right fit is, even if it's your first hire. Like, it doesn't matter if it's your first hire or your 50th hire, that can really help you hone in on that sort of, it's kind of like an avatar. You're creating an
right,
avatar is what you're
right.
doing. Yeah.
And are there a lot of jobs out there right now? Like,
Actually, there is more than what we're being told. I mean, what we think. Certainly, there's not as many as there were. It's kind of flip flopped. It used to be. I mean, literally in January and February, we had way more jobs than there were applicants, and our biggest struggle was getting applicants to just apply. And now it's flip flopped. But there are a lot of jobs. There's a lot more than I think we're believing at the moment. Our Indeed is showing some significant job growth. They pay attention to job growth and they put out reports, and they are putting out reports that job growth is actually looking pretty decent. And there are industries like you alluded to that are booming
yeah,
because of what's going on, or just because they're smart business owners, and they need the help. And it's a huge candidate pool right now. It's completely different. I mean, for one of our
right.
roles recently, we had 1,200 applicants
Oh
for
my
one
God.
role.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God.
Yeah, it's completely
That's
different.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who is a perfect client for you? Like who's your ideal client?
Well, certainly someone who resonates with the way we believe about hiring, which again is the whole right fit idea. But we also really believe we need to sort of shift the way hiring and recruiting and interviewing is done, where we treat people like people and not as much like commodities.
Right.
And right, so they're really the kind of business owner that respects their employees. They understand that their employees are probably truthfully the most valuable asset, because without their employees they couldn't provide their service or product. I mean, right, they would be nothing, or
Totally.
maybe a solopreneur. And so they understand that, because those kinds of people will really work well with our method and the way that we interview and that kind of thing. And so small businesses, like I stress, so any businesses are under about 200 employees, but we have clients that have their first hire, so anywhere from 0 to about 200.
Okay.
And service-based businesses, primarily, it's not out of design, it's just out of the way it's been. But if somebody is a manufacturing business, we'd be happy to discuss with them. And the kinds of roles run the gamut from sort of not really your minimum wage kind of level roles, because those just don't really work well with our recruiting process. It takes a little too long. But
Mhm.
right above that on up to senior management is a great fit for us. We're very versatile, and we recruit for all different kinds of roles.
And
So.
do you recruit for like in-person roles and virtual
Mhm.
team
Yep.
members?
We do
Oh,
both.
awesome.
Yes. And our process, of course, is completely virtual, our part of the process. But if you have in-person roles, then, that's most of our clients are actually in-person companies. We've got a few virtual, but most are the kind of
Awesome.
traditional.
Well, so many businesses that I see they've actually decided to just be digital or be virtual now,
Yes, there's a
right?
huge shift going on, which
Yeah.
does change the way you recruit pretty dramatically, actually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
does.
Like
Yeah.
I have both in office and virtual team members, and virtual team members, it's a completely different person.
Mhm.
And and I haven't had a lot of luck, to be honest. I've got a really great guy right now who's
Oh,
like
good.
on fire.
Yeah.
But in the past, getting people to be self accountable and
Mhm.
responsible and show up, and, for example, even hiring a contractor who I realized I can't hire people who are building a business of their own.
Right. Yes. Yes.
I didn't even
You
think of
can't.
that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, yeah, that doesn't work."
No, it can be very challenging. I mean, it
Yeah.
depends on what you're doing. I've seen it work, but you have to really know what you're getting into and what you're asking that person to do for you. And it needs to be kind of minimal. The expectations can't be full time or even 3/4 time. And
Yeah.
what they're responsible for needs to be pretty tailored down or streamlined down. But it's challenging to find people who can work virtually. I think it actually is a great model and it can work for a lot of employers, even those who've never done it. But you have to be a different kind of leader too. Like the way you lead a virtual team, the way you try to get them to be engaged is significantly different. And there has to be an intentional effort towards how do I make them realize that they're part of the team even when they don't see us for a couple of days,
Yeah.
in between times, and stay accountable and all of those things. So it's giving them the right tools, it's giving the right expectations. But you are right, it also does take a very specific kind of person who is manages themselves very well, has high executive functioning, basically.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
what it boils
totally.
down to, right?
Yeah, like I tend to like describe them as like self-driven, right?
Yeah,
Like
right.
because there's on a virtual team, um, they're not, they're not outside my door, and
Yes,
they have
right.
to be kind of self-driven and be able to understand what's being required of them and expected, right? Be
Right,
really clear with expectations.
right, right.
So can you share with us maybe one or two tips about how people can find the right fit employee?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there's a couple of things. First, you have to know who they are, right? So we
Right.
talked about a little bit. So the workbook will help with that. But there's things like knowing your core values of your company, describing your company as a person. Like, what's the personality of your company? Are you, fun and quirky? Are you highly professional and very serious? Again, nothing's right or wrong, but you got to be real. You got to be authentic. You got to really show what your company is about, warts and all. Because if you want that, it's just like dating, Michelle. It's like,
Right.
it really is. It's a lot like dating. If you want to find someone who's the right match, you got to be willing to show your cards and who you really are as well. So that's one. And then another one is writing. Think of recruiting as marketing. It's really similar to marketing. You have your right fit avatar, like I kind of alluded to. Now you have to figure out, where do they hang out? What social media channels are they on? Where are they going to look for work? And what kind of a job post, what kind of language is going to draw them into your post? And
Right.
what is going to repel the ones who you don't want? So for example, we use one, I can't remember exactly the wording, but something like, do you kick ass on a commission only structure, because we're commission only for our sales people. And so we're, like, do you thrive and kick ass in that kind of environment? And we put that right up front and center, because we don't want a whole bunch of people who need a base or who don't do well in that kind of setting. So we're honest and we're upfront about it. And the ones who apply are excited by it because they want to control their financial destiny, right?
Yeah.
So be authentic, be real in your job post. That's really important. Show the personality of your company in your job post.
I love
And
that.
then, yeah, it's a really effective tool. And if you actually probably go to Indeed at any given time and type in Zephyr Recruiting, you'll probably see a lot of great examples of job posts that we write for our clients and what they look like. And then another one is the interview. It's really important to do the same thing in the interview. Be real, be honest. I think that we need to do away with interrogative interviewing approach, where you're just asking these point blank questions, write the answer, and then the next. And there's this sense of, they're practically on trial to defend
Right.
their career choices or whatever.
Right.
Right. You're never going to get someone to open up and show who they are if that's the way they're being treated in an interview. So if you want someone to open up and really show you their true colors, you have to be engaging, you have to be genuine, you have to be curious, use a lot of questions that dig deeper into the story. So if they tell a story about, I don't know, something that went awry at work and how they handled it, don't just take the quick answer. Keep going deeper. Tell me more about that. How did it feel? What did your boss think? What did the client think? Just go deeper. And that's where the real person will start to show up. And that's how you can connect, figure
That's
out
so
if they're the
good.
Yeah,
That's so
those are
good.
things.
I think like I haven't been an employee for a long time, but I can remember back to like hellish
Oh,
interviews.
they can be terrible,
Like
right?
it was like being on trial, like having to
Mhm.
defend your choices or your career moves or and yeah, like those questions like, what's your biggest weakness or tell us, a time where things went wrong and it's just like it's almost like machine gun fire, right?
Yes, right,
And
right.
that I always felt like there isn't an opportunity to explain the situation fully, like, when you're trying to talk about something that went wrong. And it's like, I want to go more into detail. I need you to understand.
Yes, right. And if you, as the interviewer, your true desire is to really understand, right? Then
Yeah.
that's what you'll get. And what I also find is engage, like tell your stories back, be willing to share those experiences in your interview. So like if you had someone, Michelle, who brought up a story that kind of resonated with your history, share your story too. And part of the reason that we do that at Zephyr is that in order for people to show you who they really are, they need to feel safe. They need to know it's okay to be slightly vulnerable. And the
Right.
best way to do that is to be vulnerable yourself, right? To share your stories and
Yeah.
be willing to do that. And the other piece is we're so quick, I think, as employers, we're told to judge, someone who job hops, judge, anytime someone maybe got fired. But the truth is until you really know the story, they can have really great reasons, right? Like maybe they're looking for the right fit too. Maybe
Yeah, totally.
they made bad choices on their own of not, finding the right companies to work with. And that actually says a lot about a potential employee sometimes if they're not willing to spend 15 years in the wrong job.
Right.
It's kind of a flip flop of what we're taught. But it's, to me, when I have people come across my desk, I don't like month to month job hopping, but if someone's been a job for only a couple of years, it's like, tell me more. Why didn't you last there? What happened? What's going on? There's also a lot of toxic workplaces out there,
Yeah.
a lot more than we think. And,
Oh, yeah.
right?
I feel like I've worked in a lot of them.
Yeah, me too. That's why I'm here, I think, is my journey was a
Right?
lot of toxic workplaces. So
Yeah.
I know what's not and that's a whole other conversation we could have, Michelle, if you want
I
to,
know,
about
right? Oh my God.
toxic workplaces. But,
We should do that. Yeah.
yeah, but
We'll have
find
to
out
bring
the
it back.
stories before you, make the judgment.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. So how can people get in touch with you?
Okay, so our website is zephyrrecruiting.com, and Zephyr, as it shows on the bottom, is Zephyr. So zephyrrecruiting.com. You can also email me at Erin, Erin, at zephyrrecruiting.com. We're on Indeed, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. Just type in Zephyr Recruiting and you'll find us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
thank
I think this is
you.
such a big topic, and
No,
I'd love to have you come back and talk about toxic workplaces and
I'd love
and
to.
how to, navigate that, or even as a business owner, how to not have that happen. Because
Yeah.
I've even in my own company, I've had like made a bad hire, and it has changed the workplace dynamic and I saw it start to go a little toxic, really.
Yep.
And so I
It can
think that's a really
happen.
good topic.
Yeah, it is, and it can happen fast. Some research shows within only 20 minutes of getting someone who's sort of a toxic attitude or a negative attitude can
Yeah.
shift an entire team of people in 20
Yeah.
minutes. It
Oh my
takes no
God.
time at all.
Oh my
So
God.
I'd
That's
love
scary.
to talk about that, and I have a very different take on toxic workplaces than a lot of people.
Okay.
So
Well, let's get
it'd be a
that
great
scheduled
conversation.
too.
I
That's
love it.
awesome.
I love
All
it.
right.
Thank
Well,
you for
thank
having
you.
me here.
Yeah, I just think I should share you with the world. And really, if you are struggling to hire team members, you need to contact Erin.
Yeah.
Her approach is different. She's amazing, and she has a whole team that can support you in the process. So reach out.
Please do. Thank you so
All
much.
right. Awesome.
Have a good
Okay.
day.
Well, see you guys later.